All right, let's get straight to business. The briefing is simple, the mission is not. They call this the Citadel, a ridiculously over-engineered fortress guarded by what the Intel department estimates to be approximately 1,000 highly trained, exceptionally trigger-happy enemy stick figures. My objective? Infiltrate, neutralize the primary command core, which looks suspiciously like a poorly drawn glowing button, and ensure zero residual enemy response. Conventional approach guarantees instant annihilation. We need unconventional. We need chaos theory, Stickman edition. My codename is Line, and you, the audience, are now my tactical support unit. Pay attention, because the real plan isn't about brute force. It's about exploiting perception, timing, and the inherent simplicity of our enemy's design. We are going to make this 1,000-strong army defeat themselves, and all I brought was this chalk dust, 3 very sharp throwing pencils, and an absolute lack of self-preservation. This is where the fun begins. The first obstacle is the perimeter wall, a structure designed to repel armies, not a single determined line art operative. Their defense relies on predictable patrol patterns and infrared sensors, easy enough to bypass. The trick is to use their rigidity against them. I'm not climbing over, I'm going through. I utilized the chalk dust, not as a distraction, but as a temporary phase shift lubricant. By applying a controlled amount of chalk dust to the infrared laser grids, I momentarily scatter the light signature just enough to create a phantom gap. That 3-second window is my entire invasion route. The enemy stickmen, programmed for binary detection, will register a fleeting anomaly, categorize it as sensor error, and reset. Standard procedure, standard mistake. We slip in during the digital shrug. Inside the outer compound, the enemy is organized into rigid squad formations, boring but predictable. I need to dismantle their coordination before engaging them physically. My primary tool here is the Echo Grenade, which is actually just a tightly wrapped sheet of metal foil taped to a common rubber band. I fling it towards a metal ventilation shaft 75 meters away, timed to coincide precisely with the guard change. The resulting noise isn't loud, but it's sharp and unexpected. The enemy tactical doctrine dictates that any unusual sound must be investigated by the nearest 5 squads, regardless of source. This creates an immediate, localized bottleneck of highly armed stickmen converging on a completely empty maintenance access point, and more importantly, it clears my primary path to the internal courtyard for a full 15 seconds. Perfect. The courtyard is where things get truly exciting, because that's where I introduce the element of confusion. The enemies here are highly focused on the outer wall, expecting an attack from the outside. They're not looking up. I use the first of my 3 throwing pencils, not as a weapon, but as a lever. I lodge it into the exposed gear mechanism of the courtyard's central clock tower, effectively freezing time visually for them. This temporal disruption is a pure psychological play. The stickmen rely on the clock's regularity to synchronize their movements. When the clock stops, their internal rhythm breaks. They momentarily hesitate, checking their wrists, or where their wrists should be. That critical moment of self-doubt is all the time I need to execute the next phase, the distraction cascade. The distraction cascade begins with the second throwing pencil. This one, unlike the first, is intended as a genuine projectile, but not for killing. It's aimed at the massive central security spotlight, hitting the adjustment screw. The light doesn't break, but it swings wildly, creating disorienting, strobing arcs across the courtyard. Now they are visually confused and temporally disrupted. Their defensive posture collapses into individual units attempting to re-establish control. This is the sweet spot. I move low, utilizing the shifting light and shadows created by the spotlight. Remember the core principle: never engage more than 3 enemies simultaneously. The rest should be fighting shadows, each other, or their malfunctioning wrist clocks. Efficiency is key. My path now takes me into the main barracks. The security here is based on laser tripwires spanning the hallways, a classic blunder. The lasers are tuned to the exact height of a fully upright stick figure. My countermeasure is ridiculously low-tech, the wiggly walk. I adjust my gait to an exaggerated, cartoonish duck waddle, staying inches below the tripwires. The visual appearance is utterly ridiculous, a commando waddling through a death trap, but it's technically flawless. As I pass, I notice a huge rack of enemy combat helmets. I grab 4, not for personal use, but for the next phase. The enemy anticipates a single intruder, but we're about to give them a whole squad to worry about, purely through auditory deception. Next up is the ventilation system, a required passage to bypass the biometric security lock on the command corridor. The vents are narrow and loud. I attach the 4 helmets to a length of rope I acquired from the barracks and drop them down a maintenance shaft 2 levels above me. The helmets tumble down, creating an auditory signature that mimics 4 heavily armored enemies moving rapidly through the lower levels. The sound is amplified by the metal shaft, creating a perfect decoy. The entire lower security battalion will instantly redeploy to intercept the squad charging through the ducts, leaving the command level temporarily unmanned and vulnerable, exactly as planned. Reaching the command core door, I face the biometric lock. It scans hand shape, and since all stick hands are identical, a single line segment, this lock is the real genius of their security. It doesn't scan the shape, it scans the unique graphite signature left by their own identification pens. My solution? The eraser dust deception. I carefully scrape a fine layer of graphite from one of my throwing pencils and gently puff it over the sensor pad. The sensor registers a massive influx of friendly identification marks, reads it as an administrative overload, and defaults to the temporary maintenance override protocol, allowing me passage. Brilliant in its simplicity, relying solely on the enemy's over-reliance on their unique but ubiquitous security material. Inside the command room, there are 3 remaining guards, highly decorated elite lines. These guys are too fast for a standard sneak attack. I initiate the blind spot refraction. I use my last throwing pencil, the sharpest one, to precisely score the thick glass screen of the main status monitor. The score doesn't break the glass, but it creates a perfect stress point. I then use the small reflective metal foil from the echo grenade, which I kept, obviously, to reflect the emergency warning light into that score line. The light refracts, creating a temporary but blinding flash visible only from the guard's vantage point. For a critical half-second, they are visually incapacitated. That half-second is all I require. I slide across the floor. I'm not fighting them, I'm bypassing them. The key is to avoid contact entirely. I reach the main power console, and here comes the crucial, definitive move. I don't punch the button, that's what they expect. Instead, I open the console's internal maintenance hatch, which I located using the thermal output signature I memorized from the building blueprints. Yes, I memorized them, and then insert a single specially cut piece of the pencil's lead, graphite, between the power relays. Graphite is conductive. The entire command core is instantly overloaded by a controlled silent internal short circuit. The glowing button I was supposed to hit simply flickers and dies. Mission objective achieved, without a single stick figure casualty on my part, and minimal physical damage to the facility. This method leaves the enemy forces intact but completely paralyzed, unable to communicate, coordinate, or even confirm my presence. They are merely 1,000 statues waiting for the maintenance team to arrive. My extraction plan? Even simpler. I utilize the now inert power conduits to generate a small, localized magnetic pulse, just enough to confuse their exterior drone defenses. The magnetic pulse causes the exterior security drone to execute its factory default return-to-home protocol, meaning it flies back to the nearest preset landing zone. I'm waiting there. I attach a spare length of rope to the drone's landing strut and essentially hitch a ride out of the fortress, silently ascending over the now motionless 1,000-strong army. A clean exit powered by their own technology. As I ascend, the narrator takes over momentarily. Observe the elegance of the escape. No explosions, no dramatic firefights, just pure calculated efficiency. The pencil, once again, proves to be the ultimate weapon. The camera focuses on me lifting away silently by the drone, carrying the single stick figure over the massive, motionless citadel. The entire area is quiet, the enemy clueless, their mission to guard the core rendered obsolete by a sliver of graphite and a rubber band. I disembark a safe distance away and watch the sunrise. The fortress is quiet, awaiting a system reboot that won't happen for hours. My job here is done. The lesson, always, is that simplicity can defeat complexity. The 1,000-man army had 1,000 guns. I had 1 pencil and an understanding of their fundamental design flaws. They designed their base to fight a conventional army. They failed to design it against one highly motivated, well-planned line. Never underestimate the power of knowing exactly where and when to draw the line. The final frame focuses on me walking away, silhouetted against the rising sun, the damaged but functional pencil tucked securely away. I give the audience one final confident smirk. Mission impossible? Not if you understand the physics of a simple Stickman world.